members of this committee as we confront this serious issue. Again, I thank those on the panel for being here today. I thank our witnesses and those in the audience, and I yield back and now recognize the ranking member, Ms. Jackson Lee, for an opening statement.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so very much. I am very pleased to join you in convening today's hearing on the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA. As I indicated during part one of our examination of FISA, this subcommittee has a critical role to play in the reauthorization of Section 702, which expires in less than 6 months. Let me acknowledge all of my colleagues that are present here today, in particular, Ranking Member Nadler. The two of us may be the only ones present that were here when the Judiciary Committee single-handedly had to put a pause on the Patriot Act and begin to address some of our concerns after 9/11. Even in that dastardly, devastating loss of life, it was important to recognize that we are a nation of laws and the Constitution, and to be able to respond at that time. I know that the thousands of agents across America have as their general premise to investigate crimes and as FBI agents, and to follow the law and to protect the American people. That I will acknowledge. We had the opportunity to be briefed just a few days ago by members of the FBI, and I will acknowledge that there is a critical understanding of the challenges that we are now facing. But Congress is the arbiter of the Constitution and the responder to the American people and the protector of the American people's constitutional rights. With that in mind, this vital set of provisions under Section 702, which has been the subject of much scrutiny and criticism, permits the federal government to collect foreign intelligence targeting non-U.S. persons outside the United States without obtaining individualized orders. It is, of course, a unique provision. While I expect that today's witnesses will discuss many of those criticisms, I hope that we are able to have a constructive conversation about the ways in which Congress can make certain that U.S. persons are not ensnared in the web of international surveillance. I will look forward to their insight because we will act. Congress must act. Beginning with the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, which first passed more than 30 years ago to address abuses in collecting and using foreign and domestic intelligence, the government must show not only that there is probable cause to believe the target of intelligence surveillance is an agent of a foreign power, but also that foreign intelligence gathering is the primary purpose of the collection. Following the 9/11 attack and significant advancements in technology, the foreign intelligence gathering needs of the country shifted considerably, yet were often stymied by the need to obtain individual FISA court orders for overseas surveillance, which required substantial manpower, as presented to Congress by law enforcement. In response, Congress passed the FISA Amendment Act, FAA, of 2008, that authorized the federal government to collect massive amounts of information through the targeted surveillance of foreign persons reasonably believed to be outside of the United States without a warrant. Congress has granted agencies within the U.S. intelligence community this authority through FISA and Section 702 so that they may gather foreign intelligence information to seek out, pursue, and thwart threats from foreign terrorists and nation states that mean to harm us. Together, these statutes have been vital to the protection and safety of Americans. However, as we consider reauthorization of Section 702, we must be certain that we are not conceding very clear the constitutional rights of Americans in the name of national security. That is what makes America unique. That is what is the grounding of the constitutional pillars that are our definition. The FAA requires intelligence agencies to design targeting procedures to limit the scope of collection before the government acts, and minimization procedures to limit the use of information about U.S. persons after the government incidentally collects that information. The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court reviews these procedures for legal sufficiency. Although the statute includes protections for U.S. persons whose information is inadvertently collected but not constitutionally subject to targeting, we know that the NSA and DOJ have repeatedly reported the unauthorized use of backdoor searches of the 702 database. And as a release from the Brennan Center pointed out, internal oversight measures hailed as robust failed to prevent flagrant abuses, including 133 warrantless searches aimed at Black Lives Matter protesters and 19,000 searches for communications to a single congressional campaign. We're also faced with considering what guardrails are appropriate to prevent federal agencies from evading the legal protections of Americans' privacy by purchasing data from data brokers. These and other problems with FISA and Section 702 have led some of my colleagues, particularly Chairman Jordan and Chairman Biggs, and all of us, to take a position adverse to reauthorization of Section 702 in its current form. Since this is the second hearing of this subject, I hope that my colleagues are attaining sufficient information to help us reach a compromise position to move this reauthorization forward and to acknowledge that all of us have criticisms, but I think what is broken needs to be fixed. Given the threats facing our nation from the ruling Chinese Communist Party that represents both the leading and most consequential threat to U.S. national security and leadership globally, according to Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines, to terrorist groups such as ISIS, Al-Qaeda, and Hezbollah that continue to plot attacks against the United States, it is critical that we take appropriate action before the expiration of government authorities under this provision and simply make it right, make it correct, make it constitutionally infrastructured, if you will, to be able to function for what it is needed and to protect the American people. That is why I will reiterate my thoughts from part one of this conversation. We worked together to pass USA Freedom Act in 2015, demonstrating that we're capable of building consensus around our common values, dedicated to privacy, transparency, and protection from unreasonable searches and seizures. Let us do so again together on behalf of the American people, reshaping these critical tools so that they serve the government's needs while also protecting the privacy of every American. I look forward to the testimony of our witnesses and yield back, Mr. Chairman.